All right. So hello and welcome everybody to the XLIFF 2.2 New Features and Future Prospects webinar. Mihai, if you could go to the first slide, please. There we go. So before we officially begin, let me direct your attention to the Zoom question panel. Please use it because we'll be happy to answer any of those at the end because we'll be scheduling a Q&A and we're welcoming any questions that the community has. And of course, do note that this presentation is being recorded. That's a little side notification for you. Next slide. So today we will be talking about XLIFF 2.2, and in this session I have the honor of introducing you to the topic by reflecting on XLIFF in 2025, and that will be me first. And then my esteemed colleagues will talk about the changes in XLIFF 2.2 compared to previous versions, namely the plural, gender, and select module. And we will also be talking about the future of XLIFF, our vision on it, and then we'll get into a very lively full Q&A. Next slide, please. So who am I joined by today? Who are we? We are the XLIFF Technical Committee, which I have joined as its youngest member. Nice to meet you. I am Thijs Solomans. And joining me are Rodolfo Raya, Yoshito Amoka, and Mihai Nitze. Next slide, please. Now then, the raison d'etre of this presentation. We wanted to formally introduce the industry to the change we have made in XLIFF 2.2 because XLIFF is really great. A translation industry without XLIFF would be like internet without HTML. As I like to think of it. XLIFF itself has been adopted by OASIS in 2002, and XLIFF aligns with its mission to support open and interoperable standards for global information sharing. And more about that, of course, today in this presentation. Next slide, please. The most important question to me, why should you use XLIFF in 2025? During the sign up, we held a bit of a survey as to which XLIFF version you, our audience, is using. And in line with expectations, we had some people saying that they are using the new XLIFF 2 standard, but also still a lot of people who are still stuck on 1.2. And there's even one person who filled in 1.4, which is quite fascinating. I know you, you know me, you know who you are. We should talk. From time to time, I hear people discussing XLIFF and how it's apparently weird and that we have it or need it, or that's annoying, or my CTO hates XLIFF, therefore we don't do anything with it. I recently have even heard someone say we should just use Markdown instead. If you recognize yourself in these statements, or even if you hear someone utter them, feel free to direct them to this platform or to me directly because of what I'm about to tell you. Next slide, please. And what I'm about to tell you is this. The key takeaway for you, from me at least, is that XLIFF was designed to be an interchange format between different systems that process content for the purpose of translation. It is designed so that you can export a project or file or any logical grouping of content from one system and put it in another, and have enough of the translation resources, metadata, notes, comments, quality scoring, provenance, you name it, so that the other system is able to do a nice and proper translation. It is designed so that you can chain this, send it from one system to another system, from one person to another person. And they can open these files in their own editor, do their work, and hand it back. But listen carefully, it is not yet another format that you need to support and only read the segment content of. It is not designed to be stored in your system as is, and it is not designed even to be human readable, really. It's an interchange format. And the purpose of the interchange format is that we have a standard that all participants agree on and adhere to. And if you want to see changes, you have to participate in the discussion. And building your own format is a little counterproductive. More on this at the end of this presentation on how you can be part of the discussion. The XLIFF committee has long ago seen the limitations of 1.2 and how it forced certain vendors to create their own dialect. And XLIFF 2, or 2.x as I personally like to call it, is there to make XLIFF sufficiently self-extendable so that technology vendors, myself included, can add all their extra data that they have as their heart desires, while still being fully interoperable. And by the way, if you say that you support XLIFF 2.x and all you do is read the segment content while ignoring everything around it, then maybe stop lying to yourself. Next slide, please. The translation technology ecosystem is growing, right? And growing and growing and growing. We have new technologies coming in every, well, day is a little exaggerated, but month, maybe years for sure. We have new technologies, and this translation does not take place in a single system anymore. Translation is not always human anymore. Machines need more and more metadata in order to perform translations properly. And in this context, XLIFF is more and more relevant because of the aforementioned. It does not make sense as a tool developer to not only work on an integration on an API level, but also on a format level. We would then be exponentially increasing all the work that we do. And here you're asking, is it important that my tool can communicate with all these other tools? Yes, it is, because we can see an increase in client demand as they do ask for this all the time. Not only because they probably have more than one TMS, also because they want to be able to innovate and jump on new technologies or create a new language technology stack that works best for them. Because that is the beauty of our industry. We have to serve the whole world, and the whole world has quite a lot of challenges that one tool cannot possibly solve. Next slide, please. Finally, I wanted to show you an example of that interoperable language ecosystem here. Just transferring content is not enough anymore. By being able to leverage and enhance linguistic resources, we can bundle the content with metadata, style guides, notes, terminology, provenance, quality scores, translation candidates, and much, much more. That is just all actually part of the XLIFF 2 standard. In modern workflows, all this bundled data is passed through to every particular tool, and every tool can read and enhance as they wish. Because if there's one thing that LLMs have emphasized is that context is key. And that context is the power that XLIFF brings when it's understood and applied correctly. Now I'll pass the attention to my colleague who will talk about our recent improvements of XLIFF 2.2. Rodolfo, you are muted.
Okay, hope you can hear me now. My name is Rodolfo Raya. I've been working on XLIFF since about 2002. And I've seen this progress from version 1.0 to the current one. And it has been a history of many, many changes. And today I'm going to talk about the differences between 2.2 and the previous one, 2.1. Please show the next slide, Mihai. In this new release, we made just a few big changes. Knowing that XLIFF is a complex format and it has too many options, we decided to provide two options. An XLIFF core specification, which contains just the basic. If you think in terms of a PDF, you can download the XLIFF core specification and it has about 40 pages. So it's something small, something that you can read and understand the basic of XLIFF. But if you want more, we have modules, we have extensions that you can use to support many cases not handled by the simple call. And that's the XLIFF Extended. If you get it from our website, you will see it has over 100 pages and lots of examples, lots of things to take care of. And one of the big changes is that in this version, we added a new module, options for selecting plural, gender, when you are doing a translation, when you're processing documents that normally come from software localization. And this is an essential thing that Mihai will explain in a few minutes. We also added two small changes. An enhanced way to connect notes with the segment, to associate a commentary from translator with the segment. And also added the ability to put notes and metadata at the top level of an XLIFF file. Because an XLIFF file may contain multiple documents inside. Previously, you had to add a comment in each document, and there was no way to put a comment in the general XLIFF document. It's now possible. Mihai, the next slide, please. But when we designed this, we tried to make it simple and keep backwards compatibility. So today, you have to make a small change in the header of the file and update the namespace, the XLIFF namespace. Instead of ending in document : 2.0, it now says document : 2.2. But if you have an XLIFF 2.0 file or an XLIFF 2.1, it is still valid. So you can keep the files you have, and they will still be valid, and your data is safe. You can upgrade from XLIFF 2.0 to 2.1 and to 2.2 easily. It's safe. The new namespace, we had to make a new namespace for those specialists in XML because we made changes to the XML schema that supports XLIFF. So we had to change the version number, but once you make a small change, switching from 2.0 to 2.2, your files are valid again. Next slide, please, Mihai. I mentioned that we made changes in notes. The note element is the thing you use to add a comment for a translator. Previously in XLIFF 1.something, you just had a translation unit and attach a note to it, and it referred to the unit where you were. But when XLIFF 2.0 was released, we made a change that was kept in 2.1. Instead of pointing a note to a segment, you needed to modify the segment and add a comment annotation pointing to the note. So if you look at the top of the top image, you will see that in the source element, there is an MRK element saying it's a comment and it's pointing to note number 1. That meant that you had to modify the source text just to connect that text to the note. For XLIFF 2.2, we made a small change that simplified everything. We added an attribute in the note element. It's the ref attribute. Now, you can use the ref attribute in 2.2 and say, hey, this note refers to segment seg0. As you can see on the screen, it's cleaner because you have the source and target as they should have been always. So now it's easier to export your source and target to translation memory, to whatever you need, and in a cleaner way. So this is simplified. The ref attribute is not required, so you can use it if you're in XLIFF 2.2. It's not available in 2.1 and 2.0. But if you want simplification, this is a great addition. And it also works when the note is at the top level. You don't need to use, because you know that the note applies to the full document. You don't need to specify a single segment. So these are the major changes. In addition to that, we rewrote many parts of the specification, trying to add new examples and simplifying the text. We also removed things that are not maintained. There was a module that it was demoted before and it was not maintained. We simply removed. We also did not maintain the schematron artifacts that were used to try to validate XLIFF. It's really not possible. You need to write good software, a lot of software, simply to validate XLIFF. So I hope we don't need to validate any XLIFF. You read the specifications, implement the document, the formats as explained in the specification. And if you ever have questions about how to implement something, Please contact the XLIFF TC on OASIS. We have a comments mailing list. You can send your comments, your questions there. We will read them, and we will usually reply fast. So those are the major changes that I can describe now. But the biggest change is the new module that lets you deal with gender, plurals, and selection of items. So that part will be covered by Mihai Nita. And Mihai, it's over to you.
Hello, hi. My name is Mihai Nita. I'm currently at Google, but I've been doing localization work for 20 some years, among others at Adobe and Netflix, and a long-time user of XLIFF. And for the last couple of years, or finally decided to contribute, and I joined this group. And my contribution for 2.2 was the addition of one extra module for representing plural, gender, and selection. And this was a friction point for translation in all the places I've been. Why was that a challenge? Well, it's not a challenge just in XLIFF, but also in many translation tools, because most of the translation systems assume some kind of one-to-one mapping, as in, I give you an English string, you give me back a French string, or a Russian or a Chinese string, right? You give me one message, I give you back one message. But when you have plurals, and you translate from a language like English with two plural forms, where you can say you deleted one file, or you deleted 20 files, you have two forms. The trouble is many languages have more than two forms of plurals. This is an example from Romanian. I chose that because it's a Latin script, and you can easily read it. And this is, for instance, I bought a book, and the plural part, where you see 12 books or 23 books, in English it's pretty much the same message, just the number changes. But in Romanian, you have an extra particle there for certain values. Now, there are rules on when do you add that particle. And it seems alien to English speakers, but in reality, you are familiar with it already, because that's some weird stuff that English does for ordinals, which is another form of plurals, right? So the same interesting rules happen for English. Look at the terminations for second and third and fourth. And that's happening based on rules, right? So I can give you a big number, and you can tell me as a native speaker what the termination should be. And that feels weird for Romanian, where you can see all the endings in Romanian are the same. So it's not such an alien concept. So as I said, there are languages that have more than one plural form, more than two plural forms. But Chinese has one, English 2, Romanian 3, Arabic 4, Russian 4, and many other Slavic languages for plural forms, Arabic 6. Now, these kind of rules are already collected by CLDR, the Common Local Data Repository. They've been around for a very long time. And you can download the rules from the second link there. Of course, we'll share the slide deck, and you can easily access the links. Other interesting complications, even for languages with two plurals rules like English, they don't apply the same. If you look at French, when you say in English, you say 0 days, the 0 days, it's gonna behave like a plural form. But in French, 0 days behaves like one. So if you say one day, 0 day, not 0 days. Another interesting one, you can say, oh, I'm just looking at the value, and if it's 1, then it's singular. That's not true even in English, right? It depends how the value is formatted. We don't say $1.00, we say $1.00. Another challenge is that we need support for exact values, right? Think about ordinals in English, right? The st suffix applies to everything that ends in 1. But if you want to use a special message for the exact value 1, you might need that. And this is an example, right? If the value is exactly 1, you should say the gold medal. And for other values ending in 1, you'll say 21st or 51st place. Now, one might say, yeah, but this is bleeding edge stuff. Developers can't even do stuff like this. It's too advanced and it's too fancy. But it's actually not true. getText has support for plurals for a very long time. macOS and iOS, they have also their own ways to do that. In Android, there's standard ways to do plurals. ICU, which is International Components for Unicode, available for C and Java, also have plural support in message format. And ECMAScript in the Intel module, they don't have format for messages with plurals, not yet. There's work in progress there. But they do have support for the plural rules. You can, for instance, give a numeric value to a plural rule and say, if the value is 5, what is the plural class in Russian? And you'll get the key to use for selection. So how is XLIFF 2.2 addressing this problem? We added a new module, the PGS, from meaning plural genders select. And everything in that namespace, it's used to handle these kind of problems, mostly plurals. So if you are familiar with a bit of programming, one of the structures used in programming is the switch and case type of construct, right? You look at a certain variable to make the decision on. In this case is the file count. And in case 1, you select the first segment. In case other, you select the second segment. So it's almost a bit like in a programming language, right? You can say switch on file count. Case 1, you deleted 1 file. Case other, you deleted count files. We considered first, my initial proposal was to use groups, but to make several units in one group, but that would make work more difficult with localization tools because of the friction that I mentioned in the beginning. Most localization systems are used to have 1 unit as input and give you back 1 unit. So if you have an example like this, the English will contain 2 units, and you'd expect back 3 units in Romanian, and that would break expectations for many tools, including validation and translation memories and whatnot. So in the end, I was convinced by the other members of the group that using segments, it's actually more portable and would break fewer things. Mhm. Yes, it's more or less the same thing. The decision on the values you can have on the case are either exact values, the way you see it here, where the case it's the numeric value 1, and that would be used for situations where you really want a special message. In this case, we say one message spelled out. If you'd have the digit 1, probably the best way to address that it's using the keywords that you see listed there, the 0, 1, 2, few, many, and others. These are coming from the Unicode Technical Standard 35, and they are used by CLDR. So these are the same keywords that you're gonna get from ICU plural rules and from ECMAScript's Intel plural rules and other existing systems. So it interacts nicely with existing standards. So you see there, for instance, ONE listed as a special keyword. That's one thing that confuses a lot of people because in English, ONE means exactly 1, but it really isn't. ONE, if you think the ordinals, ONE means 21, 21st, 51st, everything that ends with an 1, all that ends up in the bucket ONE, which is different than exactly 1. Okay, this is a way to represent things in XLIFF, but the problem is still, how do we solve the end-to-end mapping problem, right? The English source is still gonna contain 2 messages, 2 plural forms. Who's gonna add the magical 3rd form for Romanian, for instance, right? Because in Romanian, you want something like this. In the last situation, you want a DE, and somebody has to introduce that extra few case. And the solution right now is, who can introduce that segment? Well, whoever is aware of the new PGS module. Because in a localization chain, you have so many tools interacting. Of course, not all of them will be in sync. So you can, the party that converts from a software form to an XLIFF can be the one that adds the extra forms, the extra cases, or can be a pre-processing step before being ingested in the main tooling, or can be the main cat tool itself if it's aware of this module. But yeah, somebody has to introduce those extra segments. Now, adding the segments, it can be done easily algorithmically. We've done internally at Google this for a long time, and it's data-driven. So by consuming the CLDR plural rules, you can tell exactly how many forms you need for Russian or for Romanian, and what are the exact selectors that have to be used. Yes, until tooling starts supporting this better, probably the first step would be to handle this with a pre-processing step. And then as adoption grows, you can leave the addition of extra selectors to the tool itself. For translation memories, that's an interesting one. It's really beneficial if the TM can look at the segment ID as part of the context, not just at the string itself. If you remember, when you say in English, you deleted 12 files or you deleted 23 files, it's actually in English one single message. So it's going to be difficult to look at that and say, which is the Romanian form I have to give back to you. And the PGS selector is the best thing to look at. But if the TM tool is not able to recognize the PGS extension yet, then the pre-processing would be good to add information in the ID itself. And then the TM can use the ID as part of the context, which many TM systems can do already. So this is the situation, right? As you can see, in the ID, you can embed information about the plurals, and that's going to help the TM select the right flavor of the plural form. Now, plural, it's a very complicated one because you need more forms, but it's gender, it's somewhat similar because in English, for instance, you can say, enjoy your new tablet or phone or device, but in gendered languages, the translation can be gender dependent. I don't have an example. But basically, the translation of new can be different because in Romanian, for instance, phone is masculine and tablet is feminine. So new would be different for the two kind of devices. You cannot just have one single message with placeholders. Yeah, this is something I said already. In our case, what we did for XLIFF, in the current module, the supported tags are, the supported selectors are feminine, masculine, neuter, and other. But it's not restricted to this only. So if you need to translate into some language that has extra grammatical genders, you should be free to add them yourself. And also, of course, contact the XLIFF committee and we can add them to the standard. But the point is, it should not be an error if you see in your tooling something other than this, because it's supposed to be extendable. One of the challenges is when you have combinations. In this example, you see, for example, we have a plural and a gender, right? We look at the gender of the host and we look at the number of guests, and then we can say something, Maria invited 12 guests to her party versus John invited one guest to his party, right? So now this grows and becomes exponential if you have many selectors, but this is a way to select on more than one variable. And here I included a list of relevant technical standards, the Unicode language plurals, the grammatical genders for Wikipedia, CLDR, and ICU APIs, and that was it. Thank you very much. We'll see probably during Q&A more. Next one, I don't know who's gonna be the next speaker.
Yoshito. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mihai, for going through the details of the new PGS extension module. My name is Yoshito Umaoka. I'm currently an individual contractor working for translation service vendor. I worked for IBM for long years and worked on software internationalization and translation, management service. I joined XLIFF TC several years ago, and after XLIFF 2.1, and worked on XLIFF 2.2 like I release. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk about the future of XLIFF for a few minutes. Okay. After XLIFF 2.2 was released, we discussed what we want to do next in XLIFF Technical Committee. Then a translation memory exchange format came up. So if you're working in a translation service industry, so you should know about TMX, right? So TMX has been there for a very long time. There is no standard organization maintaining the spec anymore. It's very old. The last version is like already nearly 20 years ago. The TMX is well adapted by the industry, but we also feel it's not optimal in the XLIFF, the modern XLIFF ecosystem, right? XLIFF was designed to exchange translation source and result across multiple translation management service tools across different organizations. XLIFF is often used as an intermediate format within translation process. The Matai kind of go through how XLIFF is used, right? So some translation management system extract translation source into XLIFF, then modify the XLIFF contents in every translation process step. So translated bilingual, basically output, bilingual XLIFF is actually sufficient to store segment by segment source translation pairs, right? In fact, a translation service I worked on recently uses XLIFF segments in the translation memory, and some other folks may do the same. But once you need to exchange translation memory data across organizations, you often need to convert memory data in TMX. And of course, TMX is not too bad, but XLIFF is more rich and carry more information, right? So this conversion might be actually lossy conversion. So the advantage of the XLIFF, especially XLIFF 2, right? So XLIFF 1 and XLIFF 2 is basically totally different. XLIFF 2 is that the data structure allows separation of inline tags and untranslated fragment out of the segment. The example in this, TMX and XLIFF 2 illustrate how are the inline tags. This one is originally HTML. But TMX may use a BPT to enclose the start and end of the tag. On the other hand, XLIFF 2, the start tag of in this case bold tag is externalized to the original data section, and source segment basically contains only reference using a PC tag, right? So, the typical translation memory implementation may want to support translation memory match regardless of inline tag types. Like in this example, the tag is B bold or italic I or any other additional attribute, classic or something, whatever. Even those things are dead, right? So, you may still want to utilize this translation, the translation memory. And XLIFF 2, externalizing those, inline tags makes the segment, basically essentially present only translatable, important stuff, right? And even you use TMX, right? So you may, when you store those data into the database for lookup, right? So you may need to kind of, remap this, BPT or, the EPT stuff to maximize the, memory reuse, right? So XLIFF is already has a natural format which abstract those inline tags, right? So, we are also now living in AI, an AI era, and parallel corpus data is essential data for training AI translation model. So XLIFF, that provides extensive framework for additional more context information comparing to TMX. So for those reasons, we believe like XLIFF 2, XLIFF can be used as a next generation of the TMX, right? So translation memory exchange format. And in the XLIFF ecosystem, like, XLIFF 2 can be like used from everywhere without unnecessary and lossy transformation, right? So, even like your system is built like, exchange XLIFF data with external system, and but translation memory comes in TMX, right? And you may also need to export the translation memory data in TMX, which might be missing some information, useful information stored in XLIFF. So our goal is basically, using XLIFF as also for translation memory exchange. The next slide, please. So, how we are going to do for making XLIFF 2 as a standard translation memory interchange format. We actually think bilingual XLIFF 2 without any enhancement is still capable to replace TMX, right? We are currently do not have any plan to extend XLIFF 2.2 specification to support like, translation memory exchange, right? As I mentioned earlier, you can use XLIFF syntax to store various metadata associated with translation source, translation, tools, dates, and others, right? However, XLIFF 2.2 specification itself does not have any kind of common schema for the, like, how to name or label like a group metadata. So our focus is currently, coming up a standard and, somewhat, provide a set of recommendation for those, like, how to manage metadata. Right. First, we need, like, for the smooth transition from TMX, we need to have a, like, a recommended mapping from existing TMX attribute, such as the creation to the change date, right? So of course we can put them into XLIFF 2.2 document, but we should provide a set of recommendation how those the attributes in TMX maps to XLIFF, so it can be used as an interchange purpose, right? We also think like we have more like metadata types, which is useful for translation memory management. So again, we also wanted to have a set of recommended like a grouping or like a metadata label to be kind of defined. So beyond the TMX provides, right? So we can actually, the XLIFF like contents which follows a recommendation can be used as a like a multiple system, with those like a same way to specify the metadata. And we also include like some guidelines for implementators, and probably publish the specification as a supplementary specification of the main XLIFF specification, but not extending current XLIFF 2.2 schema. So that's our scope for the the next like a main topic in this XLIFF TC. So, at this moment, we've just start correcting idea, and it's still like a brainstorming stage. So if you are interested in, so please feel free to participate the TC and contribute your valuable inputs. And that concludes my part of the presentation. Okay, who's cover next?
It's me. Well, we are waiting for you to add your questions, but I will be starting with the basic questions that we get often. How we join? How do we do something to improve XLIFF? Well, the best thing you can do is to connect to OASIS. It's an organization that hosts XLIFF Technical Committee. You join OASIS, just go to www.oasis-open.org, read the pages, join, and then once you are a member of OASIS, you can select to participate in multiple technical committees. One of them is XLIFF. So we invite you all to join or to send someone from your company to represent your ideas and talk to us in the XLIFF Technical Committee. Yoshito was telling you that we are currently working on ideas about converting XLIFF 2.2 to something that you can use to share translation memory data. Today, as he said, TMX is not maintained anymore. The company that created it, Lisa, disappeared many years ago. And TMX is getting old because when we need to share data, we have more on the XLIFF side than in the rest. And we are looking for people like you that joined this webinar today to provide us with information of what we need to do, what you need from XLIFF, and we will do it. Does it mean we will do it tomorrow, releasing 2.3? No, we are working on that. We need to get your ideas, we need your feedback, and we will improve XLIFF, maintain, release erratas, add new modules if you need them. But with your help, it would be easier. So that's a common question. Another question that we get asked, since this has been released quite recently. Yes, I know, March this year, we are in October, it's about 7 months. But adoption takes a long time. There are tools already working with 2.2. I personally released tools that handle 2.2, and other companies are working on that as well. So this will be adopted soon. How soon? We don't know. Hopefully, soon enough. We have options for getting your feedback, and especially if you talk to your CAT tools or your TMS vendors, ask them to support 2.2. We have also questions from the audience. Stephen is asking if plural and gender form enhancements are really excellent, really nice work. And will the OCAPI tools allow experimentation with 2.2 on supporting target formats? Mihai, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think we switch into Q&A mode.
Yes.
Maybe we can all unmute and show our faces. So sorry, what was the question? I was paying.
Will the OCAPI tools allow experimenting with 2.2 and supporting target formats? You are collaborating with the OCAPI team?
OCAPI already supports a form, Actually, Okapi supports the initial proposal that we had for the committee, which was supporting plurals for using groups and units. So it doesn't support this representation that it's adopted in the standard in the end, but I anticipate that it's not going to be difficult to change the current implementation. Because as I said, it supports already message format, the ICU syntax, and I think PO files. And yes, they can represent plurals, but with group and units instead of units and segments.
Okay. Stephen also mentioned that the creation tool attribute in TMX was never constrained to documented taxonomy, limiting its usefulness given the many various tools' interpretation. If XLIFF hopes to support something like this, he hopes it will be better managed. So we are trying to implement something better than TMX. So hopefully it will be better managed. Well, he also asked about any thoughts about XLIFF format or some other format that's optimized beyond the verbose XML base. There was the technical committee on OASIS, the OMOS XLIFF, that was working on different formats for XLIFF, including JSON format, which is also called XLIFF. That work is still dealing with 2.1. We moved on to 2.2, and I honestly don't know if that the almost TC will update their work to support XLIFF 2.2. So that's something we can work in the future directly in XLIFF Technical Committee, but remember the X in XLIFF means XML. So JSON and other formats may be also related to XLIFF. We don't know. We need help to do that, Stephen. So those are the questions that we have for now. And if you have more, feel free to type them on the QA box and we will gladly answer. Or if you want, you just can send questions to the comment list on the OASIS Technical Committee. I don't know if any of my colleagues wants to add something. Adais, Mihai? Well, I thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure to talk to you all, to explain what we have done for XLIFF 2.2, and we hope to get your feedback soon. And if we make another webinar, we will be inviting you all. Thank you for joining. That's all for today.